Okay, very good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 2020 Orange Board of Selectmen's meeting. In accordance with Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held remotely with no in-person attendance. The meeting will still be broadcast live on OGAT Optimum, Channel 79, and Frontier Channel 6063. Selectmen first, introduce themselves one at a time, starting with Mitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm about to introduce there we are. We lost the connection to OGAP, but it's back on. Mitch Goldblatt, thank you.
Hi, Judy Williams, good evening.
Margaret.
Hi, Margaret Novicki, good evening.
John.
John Carangelo, good evening.
Ralph.
Ralph Openquist, good evening.
Attorney Marino.
Vincent Marino, good evening.
Okay, Secretary Ann Denny is in the wings. Town Engineer Bob Brinton is with us. And Orange Board of Education, Dr. Vince Scarpetti and Michael Gray are with us for Orange Board of Education item. Good evening, and thank you everybody for being here in this challenging times.
Mr. First Selectman?
Yes, sir.
I just want to remind everyone that if you're going to be voting on Zoom, when you vote, you have to go one person at a time, and you have to say, for example, John Carangelo, yay or nay, Mitch Goldblatt, yay or nay, Margaret Novicki, yay or nay, et cetera, et cetera. That is in accordance with the executive order.
Yes. Okay. Does anybody out there, selectmen, have any announcements they'd like to start with? Kind of wave at me first so I know who it's going to be if you do. Mitchell?
Thanks, Jim. I've got a few tonight, actually. Let me start with the election. I like to say, as the head moderator for the town of Orange, that I was extremely pleased with how smoothly things went. Yes, there were a few glitches here and there, but I got to tell you, for the unprecedented times we had for a general election, the residents of Orange all handled themselves very well. In fact, it was even commented by some of the poll workers about how polite everyone was who came to vote in person, and how smooth the entire day and late evening went for the town of Orange. So I want to thank publicly all the election officials and poll workers for their help in making a very smooth transition in a very challenging time. And also like to congratulate those people that won, quote unquote, in the town of Orange. For those that didn't capture this, in the town, Joe Biden won, Margaret Stryker won in the town of Orange, James Maroney, and then the three separate state representative seats were won by Dan DeBarbara, Kathy Kennedy, and who am I missing? Charles Ferraro. But I also like to point out that both our registrars win, as they always do, Janice Casey, and like to congratulate Val Spinacy, who's the new Republican registrar of voters, and publicly thank Fred Kendrick for his time spent as Republican registrar of voters. It has been a pleasure working with him, and I wish him the best of luck in his retirement. That's number one. Number two, recap really quickly on Shredding Day. It was an overwhelming success. We had quite the pent-up demand by not having this event in April. We actually had to turn some people away at the end because not only did the shredding truck fill, so did the overflow van. We collected over 11,000 pounds of paper that was all shredded. And we also collected 27 mattresses, which was quite the feat. And I want to thank everybody for coming out. And it worked pretty well with people popping the trunk and keeping people in line. Went very well. And the third thing, I want to also report that we are off and running with simple recycling at the transfer station. First of all, in just over a month, up at the transfer station, the simple recycling, as people know now, have taken over the Goodwill trailer. They have collected over 12,000 pounds of material in just over a month, and the town has already received a check for over $600 for that just in the first month. Very, very successful, and hopefully it'll continue to do so. And there is now a drop box behind High Plains Community Center, just behind where the cafeteria area is. You'll see a drop box, which is mainly for smaller items, specifically clothes and shoes, but certainly anything can be dropped there pretty much 24/7. So if you can't make it to the transfer station, or you want to do something on a Sunday, you can drop by High Plains, behind High Plains, and drop mostly clothing and shoes there for the most part. It's one of those drop boxes you'll see throughout. So thank you very much.
Okay. That's things that I needed to say, so that's good. He made my job less. Yes, Ralph.
Nothing I have.
Oh, all right. You must have moved your phone. It lights up as if you were speaking. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. If not, I was going to say about voting. Record turnout was quite amazing, probably the highest percentage ever. It's unfortunate, though, I don't know if the state of Connecticut is going to be giving us a donation every year, every town and city in the state. Orange got $11,000 and change towards expenses towards that. So it is an unfunded mandate that was pushed on us in the future that you can be sure that we'll be paying for as things go along. But for the meantime, we're good. We lost two people that were very dedicated to the town of Orange since we last met. Ed Lieberman, who was our town engineer for many years. Yeah, poor Ed. He passed away. He was in his early 90s, living down in, I believe, Maryland with his daughter and family. And unfortunately, his wife had passed before him, and Ed Lieberman has left us. And just recently, this week, Frank Fuhrer, who lives here in town, was a longtime supporter of the Orange Country Fair. He, with Jerry Butcher, came up with the idea and manned and took care of all the ordering and inventory and all for the at the Orange Fair for the tent that sells all the fair shirts and hats and other memorabilia of the fair. If any of you are not sure what that might be, probably go to Mitch's collection, and he probably has one of each. Tomorrow, Thursday, the 19th, something they wanted to try, the first annual Holiday Farm Market is going to be under the pavilion from 3:30 to 7. There's, I think, 19 vendors, plus the New Haven pizza truck will be there. It ought to be quite interesting. I will see how all our vegetables and all are tomorrow after we have to have the worst freeze of the season right now the night before. I picked a lot of stuff yesterday, so hopefully everything's good. But we hope to see Ed there at the fairgrounds. It's a first time ever. Anne Marie and OEDC put that together, and it ought to be a lot of fun. Remember, masks are required and appropriate social distancing. Thursday, November 26th, it's Thanksgiving Day. Obviously, town offices and the transfer station are closed on that day. With the Friday, the 27th, all town offices are closed, but the transfer station is open 8 to 4:30. The recycling schedule, Tuesday and Wednesday are the same, but because of the holiday, the Thursday pickup is on Friday and Saturday. Make sure your bins are out by 6 a.m. With all the very limited to non-existent events this year, in the town of Orange. We've missed Memorial Day, we've missed Flag Day, we've missed the carnival, we've missed the fair, and numerous other events that are normals, events at the schools and town and all. On Sunday, December 6th, we are still having the tree lighting. The ice carver will be out in front of the Clark building, the OVNA building, and the tractor parade will be happening. And it will probably be the only parade of the season, and I anticipate people, I got calls this week from West Haven and Milford, people asking if we're having it because they want to bring the kids to a parade. So I anticipate the machinery to leave the community center between 4:15 and 4:20, and they take their time and come up and circle the green and park, and the weather's permitting and all. And then we'll have the tree lighting. I was reached out to by a Girl Scout group that wanted to participate and help, and I asked their leader if they would be interested in helping with some sing-along stuff, since there's nothing going on at the Otis House or library or the Congregational Church. So we'll see. I haven't heard back from them yet. And then, of course, our famous Santa will be there through distancing, through a kind of like a picture window trailer this year. So they still can get photo ops with Santa, as many of them do. They just won't be touching. There'll be glass, a window in between them. So that's what we have there. Food drives. We've received Denise Stein is acting on behalf because she kind of oversees the food pantry, and we received a very large donation from a private individual. Amazon is donating a check, and another husband and wife do a yearly donation. So our food pantry is doing very well, but we are always open to both monetary and hard good donations. Boy Scouts just did a food drive there this past week, I believe, and it was stupendous. They did a great job filling the food pantry down there. We get a lot of users out of that food pantry. So thank you to everybody who's involved and who's been very generous in contributing to that. You'll see some things were removed from the agenda. We were supposed to have personnel, and there was a bunch of things finally that we're getting them all together, and unfortunately Mr. Cifarelli is under the weather, and so we were unable to have that meeting, and being that he controls most of that documentation and all that goes with that, Ralph and Margaret and I did not meet because John wasn't available, and we will take care of that. I guess before next month's meeting we'll have to address a bunch of issues there. So with that all said, those are my announcements for the moment. I may forget something and jump back in with it after, but next thing is to consider and act on the minutes of our October 14th regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. They're included in your packet. Were there any errors, omissions, or corrections? If there are, name, page, and paragraph, please.
Jim, I'll make a motion. Mitch, make a motion to approve the minutes. But can I ask that whoever's not speaking, mute themselves? There's some feedback that we're all getting, I think. So I don't think it's coming from you, Jim. So it would be helpful because we're getting some reverberation. But I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Ralph. No. Okay. Made by Mitch, second by Ralph. All in favor? Please, Mitch? Favor. John Carangelo? In favor. Margaret Novicki? In favor. Ralph Okenquist? In favor. Judy Williams? In favor. Thank you. The hands work perfect. Okay. New business. The first item under new business is to consider and act on the request to approve the bid for the Turkey Hill School loading dock expansion project. Michael Gray, Director of Business and Operations, Orange Board of Education, and Dr. Vince Scarpetti are both here. You have that sheet in front of you. Chris, are they up and running? Okay. So this is to repair, I guess, and rebuild the loading dock at Turkey Hill. And you have the bids before you. And you see what they're recommending there is not the lowest bidder, the next lowest. Would Mr. Gray like to speak to this?
Sure. First, I'd like to say thank you for including us on the agenda this evening. I want to thank Mr. Ciparelli, Ms. Napoli, and Mr. Britton for their assistance during this process, and also thank the Board of Finance for providing the funding for this much-needed project at Turkey Hill School. Although this isn't the lowest bid, it's the second lowest bid, as Mr. Zioli has mentioned. The lowest bid contractor, unfortunately, did not have all aspects of the bid submitted before the deadline, before our bid opening. The recommended contractor was thorough in outlining the work to be done. It was aligned very closely to the job specifications. He asked many questions. We had follow-up conversations, and references for the contractor were very positive as well. We did follow the procedures set forth by the Town Department of Finance review of financial administrative regulations for the procurement, the transfer of appropriations, and the formal bid process for purchases that are estimated to be between $20,000 and $50,000. And we did receive 6 bids, by the way.
Yes, that's good. That's a good testing of the market when you get that many bids spread out like that. That's very good. You say that the low bidder did not have all documents required, I'll say, in on time. And SETI, both of these low bidders, Sullivan and SETI, have done work for the town, and we haven't had trouble with either one of them, I'll be quite honest with you. They're both excellent masons and excellent families. So that is good news with both of them. Questions for Mr. Gray, since it is not the lowest bidder? Anybody want to flesh that out a little bit further, or Judy Williams?
I've got this is very nicely presented, by the way. Thank you. Question: when would this work be done? How long would it take?
So we would like to begin as soon as we get the okay to do so. I'm assuming that this would probably take about 4 weeks to complete, depending on what happens with the situation of COVID and the upticks of cases. I don't know if that's going to affect any of the subcontractors that would be involved in this, but we are hoping to have this done as soon as possible.
Is this something that's time sensitive to the weather, as far as like curing cement and stuff like that?
Oh, no, you can cure cement in the winter as long as you're covering it once it's been poured and prepared. So it's not something that's time sensitive.
Good. Okay. Good.
Yeah, they'll mix anti-hydro in with it and tarp it and all, and in the blend coming from the plant, they have it all prepped for that. Is it Ralph? Do you have a question?
No?
Oh, okay. Yours lights up. Maybe when you move your phone or something, you light up, so I thought you wanted to speak. Okay.
I'll raise my-
Okay. All right, so if there are no other questions on this, is there a motion to accept the recommendation of the Orange Board of Education for MA SETI Corporation for a price not to exceed price of $24,150?
Motion to
So moved.
approve.
Motion made by Margaret, seconded by Ralph. Okay, no other discussion? I see none. All those in favor, I'll call you off. Mitch? Okay. Margaret? Okay. John Carangelo? Okay. Judy Williams? Okay. And myself? Okay. Ralph, raise your hand. There you go. Okay. So with that said, all in favor? Yes? Opposed? Abstain? I don't even have to do that since we all voted by hand. Okay, it is approved. That's all there is to it. It's so weird with the Zoom thing.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Zeoli and the rest of the selectmen. We appreciate your continued support. And on behalf of the Board of Education, we wish you and your family and anyone watching a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I didn't ask you one question. Where's the money coming from for this? Is
Board
the
of
money set aside or?
Yeah, the Board of Finance, our understanding is the Board of Finance approved it, and then a part of the process was the bidding and then the final approval through this board.
Okay, very good. That's all I
Thank you.
need to know.
Thank you.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too as well.
Okay, item number 2, to consider and act on the request to approve the bid for Silverbrook Estates fire sprinkler system. I certainly hope we can get this addressed. It's been taking about 4 years. Town engineer, Mr. Bob Britton, is on here. You have to unmute Bob Britton so that he can speak to this. There we go. Bob?
Yep, this is the second time we bid it. If you remember, I think last month's selectmen's meeting, the bids had come in much higher than we had expected at about 320,000. And we rebid it, different scope of work, was redesigned, and it came in at about half the price, which fits within our budget. We only received one bid, but it wasn't for lack of trying. We put it in the New Haven Register. We put it on the state contracting portal. We invited a number of contractors to bid. Apparently, a lot of them are busy.
Or they didn't want to work in the attic.
Well, that was the first one, but the current design is a lot easier. So I don't have an explanation of why other companies didn't bid on it. We think the price is okay though. I had gotten a quote from the contractor that ended up being a subcontractor to JLY Construction Managers. And the quote was actually a little bit higher than what the total bid is. So I don't know how that happened. I assume the GC managed to get the sprinkler contractor price down. It seems like it's the best option available to us at the time. And it would be nice to get the problem solved.
Agreed. Okay, any questions, Judy?
Why was the design was changed?
Yeah, the first design was a dry system up in the attic, dry meaning no water in it so it can't freeze. And the engineer's estimate on that was 130,000 and it came in at 320. We had a different contractor come that hadn't bid on it, but came up with a quote, which was 324,000. So that just kind of confirmed that the real price is much higher than we wanted to pay. So we're moving to a number of the contractors said, gee, if it were me, I would do it the way that we're doing it now, do the wet system, which is a simpler system down in the heated area. I think the big problem with the dry system was the working conditions in the attic. There's no floor. There's just, I mean, it's a huge building, and you're up there, it's all dark and there's just insulation. And if you step in the wrong place, you're gonna put your foot through the ceiling. And I think they looked at it, and I actually heard of some of the contractors that showed up to look at the job, just looked at that and turned around and left. They and I talked to some of them after the other bid, and they said, we're doing, new construction in Stamford and stuff. We don't need this. This is a pain in the neck. It's kind of like working in your attic. If you have an attic like mine, which when you're off the few little boards that are up there, you're in a dangerous area, but at a giant scale. So I think this is going to be a lot more straightforward. Sumoro has a vacant unit, which she's keeping vacant, and they're going to use that as a swing space. So if they're working in your unit today, there'll be furniture and you can go, so you're not sitting in the lobby all day, because they will have to install pipes and sprinkler heads in the apartments.
A thought I had on that, Bob, because there is going to be some disruption of residents down there, so some of us probably will be hearing about that. But I also would appreciate it if, number one, the people that are going to be working in people's units are backgrounded as far as any previous bumps in the road in their lives. I think that that is very important to know, who's in a space. And the residents in the units need to be advised if they have anything that they cherish that is sentimental or valuable to them. And if they happen to keep an envelope somewhere, those things should be secured in such a way that they're not in the room when there's strangers working in that space. I think that's pretty important nowadays, any day. Judy?
Is it possible that they could have some personnel to stay with these workers while they're in the different rooms? I mean, I'm just thinking myself, if there was a particular, I don't know, nurse or whatever that all the residents trust and whatnot, to follow this worker around while they're in their private rooms, might give a lot of comfort to everybody, because it's very hard to look around your own personal stuff and think, what should I hide? What should I take away with me? When they may only be in that room for an hour or two. It just might be easier to have someone that they can trust to be with that worker.
I think Sue has herself and a couple others that work there that will do that role. I'm pretty certain of that. Sue and Kim and a couple others there will handle that probably. Yeah, we might even be able to get a couple CERT people to, that wouldn't mind being in that type of a situation. Okay, with that said, are there any other questions for Mr. Britton on this bid? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept this? Judy, is it a question or the motion?
Make a motion to accept the sprinkler system, definitely, at Silverbrook.
Okay.
Let's get it going.
With this JLY construction and not to exceed 157,400. All those in favor, I'll call you off. Mitch, John Carangelo, Ralph Okenquist, Judy Williams, Margaret Novicki. Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you very much. That's approved, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
All righty.
Jim?
Let's see, next is to consider an act on racism as a public health crisis. We did hold that.
I was trying to get your attention to Jim.
Ralph was trying to get your attention. Ralph.
What? Oh, what's the matter, Ralph?
Oh, nothing. I just wanted to compliment Bob, because when a capital planning committee toured the Silverbrook last year, Bob pointed out all the problems we had, and we knew it was a large project money-wise and effort. That was one of our top projects, and originally it didn't get into the budget, but I'm glad it did now, and it's something that I think affects a lot of people down there, and we don't want to have another problem with the winter coming up. So thanks a lot to Bob and his efforts and the people down there.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
All right.
Evening.
Next is, I'll go back, let's see, number 3 is to consider an act on racism as a public health crisis. That, we held that meeting at High Plains so that people could come and speak their piece down there. We did receive a few emails from it. Some of them are repetitious of they spoke down there that day, and some are new, but it's interesting when you read because, and the first one on it because she was the submitter of this request, and also I, of course, will recognize Risa Siegel first. And her email, she did an excellent job, and she summed it up. And of course, she's in favor of it, that part of it. But she stuck to what we originally started with this when we received the first resolution request, which is racism is a public health crisis. And her paragraph in this, stress is caused by racism, has been documented by scientists as contributing to the development of cardiovascular and other physical diseases in many people of color. The constant stress of racism may lead to premature biological aging, poor health outcomes for Black people. And she talks about the statistics and all that she presented at the meeting on October 7th. And address poor prenatal care, higher than death rates of newborns and their mothers in some third world countries, the odds of being infected with the COVID, and odds of death due to this disease with the advent of COVID, and there has been substantial evidence the effects of the pandemic on people of color as compared to the rest of the population. So Risa stuck exactly to what we were being requested of by her originally when this all started. Then after that, people have wandered in many directions on the path on this, and all of them that I've seen circle to racism far beyond racism as a public health crisis. And every one, lead into some other areas that I don't consider part of it, which I will say, but there is, with most of these, the last paragraph, and I will be referring to an email sent by a Marjorie Shapiro in this particular one, but I will say something more to it after. A public declaration is the first step towards intentionally embedding health equity in making policy. This can lead to authorizing data and policy analysis in orange in order to prevent unintentional injustices. A public declaration can also lead to the implementation of policies and actions to dismantle and correct systems that create problems. And that's where this goes astray from what was originally proposed. And so there are several that are similar like that, but that's Marjorie Shapiro had that one. And who's this? That was Jody's, okay. Well, we know Jody Deach. We received one from a Joy in Hinacho. I don't think I'm saying that name completely terrible, but not completely right. She sent one that is, she's a registered nurse, Filipino immigrant. She lived in Dublin, Ireland, 6 years prior to moving to the U.S., lived in Orange since 2011. She's worked at the VA as a nurse. Her husband's a psychiatrist at the VA, and they have 3 children here in town. She's lived and worked in different continents for past years. I have experienced personal and professional experiences of racism that is too many to mention in a letter. Racism, as we know, comes in many forms like systemic, structural, interpersonal, institutional, to name a few. Many researchers have shown the negative impacts of racism. Racism is a mental health issue because it causes trauma. According to Mental Health America, every day people of color experience far more subtle traumas. People who avoid them in their neighborhoods out of ignorance and fear, bank and credit companies who won't lend them money or do so at higher interest rates, mass incarceration of peers, school curricula that ignore or minimize their contributions of our shared history, racial profiling are just a few how racism is experienced in our community. Myself and my family have our own share of these experiences, both in the workplace and in school. My children have been called names and treated with lack of sensitivity due to the color of their skin. I have been asked questions and have been treated and made me feel like I do not belong. I look and speak different. I have seen and felt racism everywhere, and it will take a toll on the soul. Trauma specifically caused by racism is complicated. We need support, training, education to address racism. It should and can start from our town of Orange. We can start from our schools, making sure education about diversity and culture is part of early curriculum. We can look at how our town workplace policies influence and affect the lives of a minority. These are just to name a few. As much as there are many ways racism impacts the lives of people of color, we as residents of Orange can also do much to initiate that change, thus the need for a resolution. We cannot do it on our own. We need the support of our town. We need the support of people like you to make this happen, and that was Joy Iheanacho, I'm going to say. Will Sherman sent another extremely lengthy one that he included all of us on. Who's this one from? Betty Hadlock, who spoke. She had a written one, and she spoke at that meeting. Submitted another one. She included everybody on this one. She believes the citizens of Orange understand the importance of recognizing that bias and prejudice are facts of life, need to be addressed not just in our community but throughout the country. This declaration is the first step to ensure that we work together toward a fair and just world for all our citizens and neighbors of Orange. Harley DeMattis, who was that young woman who got up and spoke at the meeting, she sent a very lengthy one, and she cited similar issues to some of the others, but she also cited a bunch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 places where she gleaned her information from. So she also is in favor of this resolution. Then today we received, I think we received 4 today. And a Robert Hames from here in town sent Robert and Kara Hames sent one. And then we received one from Carla Eichler. And let's see. Okay, those two are the same, Hames and Eichler. Theirs are very similar with one injection where they broke away and told a little bit about themselves, but again, they end with this same point about analysis to prevent unintentional injustices and implementation of policies, actions that dismantle and correct problematic systems. So that Robert and Kara Hames, Carla Eichler talks about living here in town. I think she sent hers, also went to everybody. So you have that one. Judy Primavera we got this afternoon. You all know Judy. She sent a very short one because she said this, everybody was doing it, and rather go into some long explanation reviewing the disturbing factual accounts, racism and racial disparity in this country and this state, I'm simply going to say that voting in favor of the resolution is the right thing to do. The main thing to do. It is imperative that our town be counted standing up for every person's equal rights guaranteed a United States citizen. And then the last one here was Regina Fisher came in this afternoon. I'm writing to ask you to vote in favor of declaring racism, public health crisis. This has been continuous, senseless violence against people of color at the hands of police across our country. The effect of COVID-19 pandemic of people of color in Connecticut has exemplified the impact that racism is having on our society. By declaring racism a public health crisis or emergency, we acknowledge these inequities. We stand up and recognize racism as a public health crisis. My 2 grandchildren are children of color, so I do have personal interest in this. This has made me more aware and understanding of people of color. When I read to my grandchildren, I try to incorporate stories of different religions, nationalities, and holidays. Like other grandparents, I hope they'll grow up in a world that is fair to all. The first step is incorporate health equity, would be to declare that racism is a public health crisis. Please support Regina Fisher. So those are what we did. I got to look, wait a minute, I got one, Jody's here, I got to see if I'm supposed to read something. Okay, and Jody Dietz sent a two-pager also, which all of you have received, with multiple questions and also. Part of the trouble with this, I've had many people come up to me, and some have said that we need it, and I've had many come up to me that say, you know, no, we don't, within the town of Orange, which is our duty, with the boundaries of the town of Orange. I've said it right from the beginning. I found the first resolution offensive to some. And some of those people have commented to me about that because it does select out, it starts with people of color and ultimately goes to one group of African Americans. And that was maybe not the intent of the document, but that's where the document fell. And then today I was trying to figure out why we're getting, you know, so much of this. I mean, 11 or 12 this time. 13 people spoke at the forum. 2 were not in favor of. 11 were in favor of. 3 of those opinions were very free and individual opinions, and the others were all similar. And then I figured out that it had been a team effort to promote that. And so then I see these coming in, and I'm trying to figure it out, and falls in my lap today. Somebody sends me an email that was distributed yesterday that tells people that their persistence has paid off and that I've put this on the agenda. Well, of course I would put it on the agenda. That's the appropriate thing to do. And then also with it was provided a very generic resolution that many of these pieces of paper that we've received have copied, and it was all, you know, just sent out by Jody. And so I couldn't figure it out at first until somebody brought it to my attention that had received it, who was not in favor of it, which is sometimes the problem when you send out broad emails. Not everybody is always going to be of the same thinking. And so this email went out last night and or yesterday, and some people that received it were not in agreement that were given, but it urged them to get their letters in before 4 o'clock today, and since we're doing a Zoom meeting, so on and so forth. So you're hearing me read all these 12 or so, 11 or 12 people in favor of here, but I've heard more than that people opposed to it, and I was really on the fence personally on this one. I did find it offensive to some because I know others, and I had some people of color, Jamaicans and other countries, and not in support of this as it is, and for their own personal reasons. And then when you start reading this new resolution that Jody sent out, getting people to send in, urging, and when you start talking about the dismantling of systems and injustices, if you do your homework and start to track that, that dismantling is a undertone for defunding. And I am not in favor of defunding the police or any of our social services, and that's ultimately what that leads to if you do your homework and dig a little bit deeper into the quick of this. So those are my thoughts on this. I will now open it up to my selectmen on this. Wave your hand first, just so that I know you want to speak. Margaret.
Thank you. There, I'm unmuted. Thank you, Jim. First of all, I want to give my views, and then I would like to react to some of the points that you raised. I think all of you know that I fully support the town of Orange adopting a resolution that declares racism as a public health crisis. I believe that we, as the leadership of this town, have a responsibility to all our citizens to set an example and to demonstrate that Orange, which is an increasingly diverse town, is a welcoming community that respects the needs and concerns of all its people. We've opened up a dialogue at the public forum, which I think was a very good thing. And anyone and everyone was invited to attend. And a number of the people there, as you said, did speak in favor of it. And a number of people have sent in letters in favor of it. And I don't think any of that is because somebody told them to or anything else. I think this is all because people genuinely feel very strongly about this issue. I think we should keep this dialogue going. And by passing this resolution, it will enable us to do that. I think that it's really important that we recognize that racism is an issue everywhere. It's not trying to single out Orange as any kind of bad example of anything. It's acknowledging that racism persists everywhere in our country. It does exist in cases that you may have heard in Orange, but what we can do through this resolution and having dialogue afterwards is to help our children learn that fighting racism and supporting equality and diversity in our town is the right thing to do. I think if we fail to pass this, we'll be sending an opposite message, a negative message and a painful message to our citizens of color that we don't care. I strongly feel that we should set an example here in Orange. Social change always begins here on the ground in our communities. So let's keep this discussion going and this dialogue going. Let's do the right thing and join municipalities across the country that have taken this step. That's my view. And then I think, you cannot separate out the issue of health from the larger structural racism that exists in society. I mean, it's all very much intertwined, whether it's in education or housing or redlining, you name it. It's all part of the structural nature of racism that has developed over centuries in this country. And we strongly feel that this does not apply solely to African-American citizens, but to all our citizens, irrespective of where they come from, what their religion is, what their faith is, what their nationality is, whatever. It applies to everyone who feels themselves to be in a position of, as a minority or, not of the dominant race or color. And it has nothing to do with defunding the police. I want to say that outright, absolutely nothing to do with defunding the police. Where we go from here, if we pass this resolution, is up to us. It's up to all of us. Nothing will be imposed upon anyone. It's to enable us to have a dialogue and a discussion. What we would like to see is a task force that would sit down and look at where can we do better as a town? Can we do better in our core curriculums in grammar schools to teach diversity? I mean, to look at all the different aspects, how we can help those who have health issues get the appropriate care and that they need. It's an opportunity to look at all these things that we're perhaps not looking at right now. So that's how I see it, and I think it's really important. Thank you.
Okay. Judy, I thought Ralph was going to, his green lighted up. Go ahead, Judy.
Okay. Having been in the school system for a few years, having been out in the public in Orange all my life, and witnessing this wonderful growth in Orange from all kinds of nationalities, and seeing how, I mean, all you have to do is go up to the walking track and see the number of people out there enjoying it, using it, the town pool, in the High Plains Community Center, all of them joining, you know, and I'm just saying them, I'm just saying people that have moved into our town, black, white, purple, whatever. It just seems that maybe I'm not seeing the bad, but I watch the schools, I see all the schools coming, the children coming in, the parents coming in, the diversity that is really taught in the curriculum, and I've witnessed it, I've done it. So I'm just wondering with the resolution, I hear you, Margaret, when you're saying that, you know, keep dialogue going, and I think that's always important. My thing is that it's from the dialogue that you want to continue with a resolution behind you. That's where I'm wondering, where are we going to go with that? Are we going to get to the point where you're going to start in asking for different curriculum changes, which now is going to, you know, affect the Board of Ed's curriculum? Are you going to change different policies for people going and signing up for the pool? I mean, I'm missing it. I really am. I'm missing seeing the large discrimination. I don't see it in town. So that's where I need some help. I really don't. And I mean, I think on an individual basis, I think people are able to get out and get support. I think like our Orange VNA, our police department, I think all of them are doing an exceptional job. I'm willing, I mean, if we were in Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford, I agree. That's a huge, huge difference than what Orange, Connecticut can do. But if it's something that needs to be a continual dialogue, then maybe we could just set up a group of people to be able to do that, and then really go in and talk to the police, the VNA, the schools, and see if you can find some individual issues that are really starting to affect more people, that we really should go in and see what kind of change is important. You know, because I'm all for it. The world is international, and we are all in it together. So we should be it together. Oops, I keep doing that, sorry. Where did I go?
Could I just
Okay,
say a quick word?
Yes, where am I?
go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that again, I see this as a very inclusive process. It's not about, you know, coming down with any edicts that will dictate this should be done, that should be done. It's to enable the sort of framework for discussion. So if we were talking about education, of course, the superintendent of schools and teachers
How did I
would be
get out
part
of
of it. You know,
Right.
if it was about police, the police chief and others would be part of it. It is not at all. It's meant to help us move forward. It's not meant to be any kind of iron fist that comes down that says,
Okay.
we have this and we must do
All right.
that. Not at all.
Uh-huh.
All right, hold on. I had a question pop up in the corner of my screen from Harley DeMatteis, and I obviously can't email while I'm doing this. Harley DeMatteis, I know you're watching this. Her question was, why aren't the letters being read in their entirety? The reason for that, Harley, is they have been distributed to all of the selectmen, and you emailed it to all of the selectmen. And the selectmen are the ones at this point tonight taking the action on this, and they are all aware of your email and each have a copy of your email. That is why we do not read each one in its entirety at this point. Thank you for that. Who's next? Mitch, you look quizzed. You're not sure.
Mr. First
You're
Selectman.
muted.
Mr. First Selectman,
Hold on, Vin. Okay, yes, Vincent.
just quickly, you might also state that those will be part of the minutes and available.
They
for
are
public
part of, they're
inspection.
part of the record. Yes, they are.
Yes.
Good thing.
All right, is there anybody else? Ralph?
Oh, Mitch, go ahead, Mitch.
No. Okay, yours, I don't know what you're moving, Ralph, but when you move something, your screen lights up on mine that you want to speak, so, but
Go ahead,
I don't
Ralph.
know why.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Okay. Who's next?
Go ahead,
No?
Ralph.
Mitch.
No, I don't think so, Mitch.
All right, I guess is it Ralph or me, Jim?
Go ahead, Mitch. Would you like to say something? Go ahead.
You know, it's difficult. This is a difficult discussion, obviously. I think Margaret captured a lot of what I would have said. But you know what? Look at this screen. Look at this screen. What do you see? You see middle-aged white people. And the problem is we can't put ourselves in the position that some of these people are in. And I got to tell you, Jody wrote in her letter about having some community groups, and I was fortunate to be at a couple of those and listen to people of color and a few people not of color explain how they feel. And I think we got a real good taste of that at the forum. Jim, thank you for putting that together. And I think we heard from a number of people. We heard from more people. You know, whether emails are copied, the point is that those people, each of them, every one of them, took the time to send an email to this entire board. The people you heard from anecdotally didn't do that, whether they're in favor or against. So I give a lot of credence to those letters, emails that came through from so many people. This issue, you know, and I think one of the reasons, Jim, is quite honestly a reaction to your statement a couple of months ago when you mentioned you only had 2 emails. You only heard from 2 people. Well, now you've got a dozen or more, plus the dozen or more, some of the same people that spoke at the forum, and others who have not put pen to paper or typed out an email. The problem is this, that we have people in this community who are uncomfortable, literally in their own skin, living in this community. And it's not just this community. Judy's right, it's across this. But we're leaders of this community, and as leaders of this community, it's incumbent upon us to take a stand. We don't take stands on this board because 100% of the people agree one way or another. Nor do we do that in our country when we vote on anything, as you can see by even the local elections to the national elections. You know, things are not decided by everyone feels this way or everyone doesn't feel this way, because otherwise you don't need leaders. We've got to take a stand for the people of this town and to set an example. Other towns have done that. I feel it's incumbent upon us to do that, to show the people in this town that we care. It's a first step to show that we care about everyone in this town. And that means everyone. And not to have people fear the fact that because they may be walking in their own neighborhood, and just because of the color of their skin, that they're looked at as being suspicious. Because that's what I hear from some of these people. And I believe it. And I tell you, Judy, I was shocked by some of the things I heard, because I didn't see it myself. I don't see it in others, but it's real. It's there. And, you know, think of this. We had a forum where we knew most of the people who spoke, and we knew most of the people who were going to speak, and maybe even what some of them were going to say. So if I walked into a forum in another town, because I know all of us are recognizable in this town, if I walked into another town, somewhere else in Connecticut, where I'm not known, when I walk into that room, no one knows that I'm a Democrat unless I tell them. No one knows that I'm Jewish unless I tell them. No one knows that I'm heterosexual unless I tell them. But if someone of color walks into that room, there's no hiding the fact that the first thing you see is it's a person of color. They don't have to tell you anything. They don't have to open their mouth. You can see that, and you form an opinion, right or wrong. And that's the impression that I'm getting from people. And that's why this issue goes well beyond the town of Orange, Connecticut. But my goodness, it is time for us to make these people. I said, you know, it doesn't say, and I had someone accuse me of saying, this means Orange is a racist town. No, it means anything but. It means that we're a welcoming town. And that's why we need a resolution to say that. I want people to feel comfortable in their own skin. I want people to feel comfortable in the town of Orange. And that's why I wholeheartedly support such a resolution.
Well, I don't think most of the people that are coming here are going to know that there's a resolution unless it's tacked up out on the front lawn. But I mean, I think we are known as a welcoming community, and there are many issues as far as, I'll call it, you can call it racism, you can call it bigotry, you can call it anti-Semitism, you can call it whatever you want. I mean, a perfect example was last year at Amity. We had what was thought to be an anti-Semitic issue, and then upon further delving into that, Amity found out that that wasn't quite the case, that it was somewhat brought on to some of them themselves by their own actions. And so, you know, there are groups and people and individuals. I think we have seen it for the last 3 or 4 months across this entire country, with people on both and all sides of the aisle, taking actions that, whether we agree or disagree with, there's been actions, and we've been seeing them on the nightly news for at least the last 3 or 4 months, and they're still going on, unfortunately, in some cases at this point. And so that, you know, that's something that has going on. Remember, right here in this town, way back when, the old timers, when they ran this town, the people of Italian descent were all put down on Marsh Hill, Prindle Hill area, and it was referred to as Ragpickers Hill over there. Most of them have died as millionaires because we made their land all the industrial land since then. The far side of town, West Orange side of town, beyond Wheeler's Farms, was all the Russians and Poles and other Eastern European people. They put them over there because they didn't want them in the center. So that has happened, and I think Orange has evolved from that. And I think that probably a better answer to this, and we're still going to act on this situation. This is only my opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. That's why we're all here. I think that whether you call it a committee or a task force or some other title, something similar to what Woodbridge did. Woodbridge did not pass a resolution. They put a task force together to work on this topic. And that is something that I'm considering, but we're not done with this topic yet. But that is what is on my mind personally, now that I've shared that with all of you. Who's next? Mr. Carangelo. Unmute John Carangelo, please. Wait a minute, Johnny. There you go.
There I am. Sorry.
Yep.
Wasn't working. So this is a very interesting topic that is very sensitive to a lot of us. But I need to get some clarification. I thought our job was to do what's in the best interest of the town of Orange, not necessarily the state of Connecticut or the United States of America, but to do what's in the best interest of our residents. We had a form. By numbers, I see about 11 people that came in support of making this a resolution. We've had approximately an additional 11 people send emails wanting to have this board adopt this as a resolution. I too have heard from a lot of people that are concerned about adopting it as a resolution because they've asked the question, if we do adopt the resolution, how will this affect us as individuals in the town? Will it affect us eventually down the line financially? Margaret made a couple of points saying that she would like to set up a task force, and ultimately communicate with the Board of Education to adopt potential educational classes to discuss racism. I would imagine by doing so, that in itself may cause our residents some financial situations for them. I think everyone in this room or in your rooms, respectfully, we're not all together, can say that there's racism in this country. And I think we can all orally say that and say that we're concerned about it. But I'm very concerned about adopting a written resolution that may affect us down the line. I know Attorney Marino mentioned in the resolution at the forum that there was a concern potentially legally, rather liability-wise. I don't know if we have an answer to that, but even if we don't have an answer to that, there's always that question, are we doing what's in the best interest of the residents of this town if 22 people come out and say they want a resolution adopted? Couldn't we, as an alternative, agree as a board to outwardly say we all believe racism as a healthcare crisis? And couldn't we all agree and vote on, let's get a task force that discusses these issues and continues these issues for the betterment of those individuals who feel adversely affected? I just don't see the need for a written resolution at this time. And maybe that's the lawyer coming out of me, but I'm fearful for a written resolution. And I think we can do the same thing by all agreeing that racism is a healthcare crisis. I personally don't know if it's a healthcare crisis, if racism is a healthcare crisis in Orange, but I would agree that overall, there is a healthcare crisis. But my feeling is, as far as a written resolution, respectfully to all the people who communicated with me, who have written to this board, I'm fearful for a written resolution, and I don't support it at this time unless somebody can specifically tell me there's no liability to this town. It's not going to affect the interest of our town residents as a whole. If anybody can emphatically tell me that's the case, I'll consider voting in favor of it.
Ralph hasn't spoken yet. Let's let Ralph speak.
John, we haven't talked, have we? You and I haven't talked. Well, you came out with most of the things that I was going to say, but I think that we have to look into a number of items and issues before we come up with a resolution.
Oh.
And I was going to ask Mr. Marino if he's done anything with this, because I think just reading some of the resolutions that people have put forward or comments that they've put forward in the emails to us, is there a legal liability in some of those things? Is there a financial responsibility that we have to look at? Some of the words in those resolutions almost put us on a spot in terms of supporting this thing for people financially. And who's going to fund this? Is the town of Orange going to fund this? I was reading someplace that the state of Connecticut, the legislature was considering taking up this question in the next session. I would think that what we would want to do is wait for them to come up with their resolution before we come up with another resolution, which we end up may be in difference to them, and we would have to then amend our resolution. And again, there could be financial issues with either one of those. To agree with doing a written resolution and voting on a written resolution at this point in time, with all these other unknowns, is putting us out there and could be tying our hands at some point in time. And I would see some some kind of committee or as John said, a task force, to go over this and actually come out with what we're trying to say and not encompass a lot of other issues along with this health issue. So I'm not ready to vote on something. We don't even have a written document that we're going to vote on. All we've got is letters and emails. Thank them for voicing their opinions. I think that's totally correct. But for us to try to sit here tonight and pick out words and paragraphs and from those letters and
Hello?
I don't think it's the right way.
Hello?
Ralph, I think your wife might be on the other line. Jim, I think Mrs. Oakenquist may have picked up the other phone.
Maybe. Ralph, are you still on?
I'm still on.
Okay. There was another call coming in. I didn't know if it was on mine, if a call had jumped in somehow on the town phone. Okay. So you've heard a lot of thoughts on this now. All said? People want to...
Jim, can I just give you some, as not only as a town official, as your counsel, and as someone who has experienced some of the issues that are being discussed. As your counsel, I would always ask you to take caution. I actually agree with Mitch and Margaret in theory, but not necessarily in resolution. I think that the resolution is too narrowly tailored and too narrowly focused. And I think that we're missing an opportunity to address, racism, which in theory is a form of bullyism, which is rampant in our community. Being a father of a child that just graduated Amity, who went into Amity without any mental health issues and graduated Amity suffering from body dysmorphia, anxiety, and PTSD as diagnosed by the Amity School District because of the bullyism that has been run rampant in that school. That I have examples in that school of people, of students of color being referred to with the N-word, with people of religious faith, of the Jewish faith, being referred to in anti-Semitic ways. I do think there's a great opportunity here to address, as town leaders, things that go well beyond the definition of racism, which is bullyism based upon color, but and based upon creed and race. But it is a form of bullyism, and we have a problem in our community. And I'm a town attorney in 2 of the 3 towns that form our BOA district. And I do think it's an opportunity that should not be just walked away from. But I also think we have to tread lightly. And before you come forward with a resolution that might have been canned in some form from some national or statewide community effort, to understand there are other resolutions out there. In Derby, I was asked to provide an opinion on whether or not the Board of Aldermen should consider adopting a resolution supporting the Equality Act, which is an act that's been sitting on the Senate floor in Washington that extends rights on the federal level to LGBT members. That because 29 of our 50 states do not afford equal rights to members of that community. Well, is that going to be the next resolution to come before this body? And are you going to then be positioning yourself where every time there's a resolution related to some component of our community or our society that you have to take action on or be criticized for picking and choosing? Now, in the state of Connecticut, LGBT community members are afforded the rights that would be afforded under the Equality Act. But in the state of Mississippi, they're not. So is it right, as a matter of federalism, for people in Connecticut to be putting their opinions on the people of the state of Mississippi? That's a philosophical question. That's not a legal question. But it's something for you to think about, because, you know, we are not a democracy as we all espouse. We are a republic. We are founded on democratic principles, but we as Connecticut residents should do what we feel necessary for the confines of our state. And as Selectman Carangelo, I think correctly said, we are also town officials in a jurisdiction called the town of Orange. And while I agree, I have cousins that are of color. I have cousins and uncles that are of the LGBT community. I have a daughter that has suffered horribly from bullying. And I'm in a position of not being able to do anything, even though I'm the town attorney in 2 of the 3 towns. And I think that there's an opportunity, not by adopting a resolution, but by taking action. And I think that as leaders, if we take action by continuing a dialogue through the appointment of a subcommittee or a task force or whatever you want to call it, and actually compel our leaders at Amity to come to the table. My resolution for my daughter was simply trying to get the parties together to try to teach young men that it was not appropriate to speak to young women in ways, or to spit in young women's hair in ways that are fundamentally offensive. But I couldn't get the leaders at the Amity level even engage in dialogue. Well, you know what? I've heard that a lot out of the leaders in Amity, that they just shut you out. And it's inappropriate. So as leaders of this community, might we do something that has a meaningful effect on our future, which is our children? And maybe by taking appropriate steps, instead of just checking a box that we've adopted a resolution, we can actually make people of color feel more welcome, because they should. When I look at any one of you, I don't look at you as men or women. I look at you as people. When I engage with people of color, I look at them as just people. That's where we have to get our psychology to. And we don't, just by simply adopting resolutions. We get there by action. And so I apologize for my soapbox, but I think you got to tread lightly, because I've seen throughout our state, I represent 10 communities, there are a lot of resolutions out there dealing on a lot of social issues, and everyone is going to come to this table if you just start adopting resolutions. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go Margaret first. Unmute.
Yep,
There.
thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a lawyer and I don't claim any knowledge of the legal issues of this, but I believe that a resolution is neither an ordinance or a law. So therefore, it would not have implications written in a legal sense and legal risks associated with it.
You're correct in the concept, meaning that it has what the resolution does, particularly when you're having a resolution that something be declared a public health crisis, you're sending a message that you support a declaration. Now, a declaration that anything is a public health crisis does have a meaningful effect, because the declaration of a public health crisis triggers at the state and federal level the funding of money. And so you might, you can adopt a resolution that racism has no place in Orange. That has, I will say, ultimately no legal effect. But if ultimately people at the state are trying to say, we have 169 towns that have adopted this resolution, let's have the governor declare this a public health crisis, the legal effect of that will be that there will be a funding of money that will go to address this issue. And then it begs the question, where does it come from? So I don't know the answer to that, but that would be the legal consequence. So you are correct in concept, but in ultimate outcome, we don't know where it goes.
Okay. Mitchell had his hand up second.
Thanks, Jim. I just want to respond to a couple of things that were said by various people. One, Jim, you said, what resolution from us, who's going to know, who's going to care. You may not have seen it, but there's a publication, online publication called Route 50 that talked about cities declaring racism, and it talks about Philadelphia and Los Angeles and all of Milwaukee. And then smack in the middle of the whole article is this, and I'll read it to you. But getting a government to publicly assert that racism is a crisis shouldn't be taken for granted, because in several places, resolutions have faced significant opposition or even failed. The town attorney in Orange, Connecticut, which recently held a public forum about racism and public health, said the declaration could have, quote, unintended consequences. So we've made national news just on that forum. I'm not saying it's necessarily in a good way or bad way. It is recognized. The towns in the state of Connecticut that have done, a resolution have been recognized. John said, is it in the best interest of Orange? It may be in the best interest of the country, but I feel that we're not an island. What happens in the country affects us. We're not that same community, Jim, and I say thank goodness that puts people in different corners of this town based on their nationality. And it's unfortunate, but I know what you've talked about is true, and was true a while ago, a long time ago. It isn't today. We've all evolved, and this is part of our evolution, is recognizing this situation. Ralph mentioned about the legislature. I might want to remind this board of a couple of things we did, and I think, Ralph, you might have been on the board, and Jim, you were on the board when some of this happened. Number one, when the Supreme Court ruled in Kelo versus New London that you could use property, private property for eminent domain for the public interest of a business. This board at the time took a resolution, and Jim, I believe you led this effort, that said in Orange, we came out with a resolution or an ordinance, I think it was a resolution at the time, that said, we're not going to have eminent domain used for private businesses because it may be in the best public interest. Okay, number one. Number two, Ralph also mentioned about, bring it back to Ralph's question about the state legislature. I do hope the state legislature takes action, but the state legislature will take more action if it sees towns and cities across this state making a statement to let them know there is a feeling out there, not just of one church that came forward in, I believe, in New Haven or Hartford, maybe it was Hartford, that made this a big issue, but other towns and cities leading the way. And may I remind you that several years ago, State Representative Themis Claridis came to this board, and she had legislation up at the Capitol that said if a parent was holding a party, or allowed a party to take place where alcohol was served, the parent would be, for underage drinkers, the parent would be held responsible. And we debated it. And we said, in fact, I remember it being said, well, Themis, this is going to the state legislature. And what she wanted was us to take action to help convince the state legislature that this was a good thing. And we did. We were one of the few towns in the state that did, but we took a lead. And then the state legislature did indeed pass that same law, and it is now the law of the land in the state of Connecticut. By the same token, when Sandy Hook happened, we didn't sit by and say, oh, that was Sandy Hook. We took action in this town too, by having a vigil, by getting people together. I think it's only appropriate that we spent a long time talking about this in previous meetings. We had a well-publicized forum. Having people come out in the middle of a pandemic, no matter what the number, I thought was pretty impressive. I think we take action. We make the resolution step one, and then you ask, well, what do we do next? Then we number two is we do put together a diversity inclusion task force or something of that nature that Jim will appoint to go forward. And Vin, let me just say, listening to you and revealing some painful things that have happened that you've witnessed, not just of the community, but of your own family, and to reveal that is very powerful. And I applaud you for going forward and saying that. And I think it has an impact on it does on me. And I hope the impact is the same for us, because it was, as you mentioned, your daughter, but it's also happened to people of color. And I think it's imperative upon us to take action. And as far as what the resolution is, Ralph, and you mentioned that, yeah, there's resolutions flowing around. We don't have to adopt what was put in front of us. I think if we vote tonight to go forward with the resolution, then we will turn it over to the town attorney. And by a matter of coincidence, the town council in the town of West Hartford did draft an ordinance, which was not exactly what was handed to him in the town of West Hartford. He is the son of a former Orange resident, a Turkey Hill School classmate of mine, an Amity graduate of mine. Her son is the town council, and I spoke with him and have some interesting information that if we go forward with this, Vin, I will give you his information and we'll go forward with that. So I really hope that we do go forward and pass this resolution this evening, or pass not the resolution, because you're right, we don't have one in front of us, but pass the concept over to the town council with our thoughts and feelings that we put together, or he puts together a resolution, and maybe he has to bring it back to us. I'm not sure the exact procedure at that point. Thank you.
John Carangelo. There you go.
Yeah, I'm trying. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So just to respond quickly, and I apologize, but I don't think any one of you addressed whether or not a written resolution is actually going to impact the town as a whole financially, nor did it address whether or not we can, instead of doing a written resolution, whether we can as a whole, like we've done in the past, agree outwardly to say that racism is an issue and a public health care crisis, and without doing a written resolution. So again, without that information, for me, I'm not going to support a written resolution, but I would support an alternative if someone would be willing to do that. Otherwise, I stand firm with my feelings at this point. I'm concerned about the residents as a whole, but I am very sensitive to the fact that racism is a public health care crisis overall. Thank you.
All right, so that opens up an interesting third turn off the road now. Instead of, hold on, Judy. Instead of approving a written resolution at some point moving forward, John wants, or his thought is that the group would vote on standing behind, they agree that the racism is a public health crisis as a group, and stand with it at that, which is what John's now proposing. So Judy, you're next.
Okay, and I think that is a good start. I think also what I would like to see is we are so connected with Woodbridge and Bethany. And you said that Woodbridge already has a task force set up.
I'm not sure if it's set up. I know
Okay.
That's what the direction they were going.
Okay, but I agree that I think a lot of these issues that have come to light seem to end up, unfortunately, in our higher education classrooms, so to speak. It seems like I, working down in the elementary schools, saw a lot of flexibility, a lot of teaching, a lot of sharing of ideas and so on. But I think as the children went up through the system, I think you saw more situations where they could be bullies in just that, I'll throw that out the general term. They can just, at that point, point at other people and say you're different and not be a good citizen, and that's respect. I mean, as Benny, as you say, you look at people and they're people. And I think somehow during those teen years or something, they somehow kind of lose that concept. So if we ever did something, and if we did get a task force, I would definitely like to make it and more than an invite, but just say to Amity people that, you know, we all need to sit and work with this together, because I do think that's where a lot of these issues culminate. And of course, then that brings it back to the home situation. So, but I do agree. Yes, it's something that we should keep the dialogue going. We definitely should recognize it. I like John's idea of let's just stand forward as a team and say, yeah, we're with you on this. And then look to how we can implement that.
Okay. Is there anything else on this, or is there a motion to be made, or where are we? Mitch has his hand up.
Well, I guess at this point, I would, with all due respect to John's feelings, we've received comments about a resolution. We've put that on the table at the start of this whole thing. So I would like to make a motion that the town adopt a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis, and then leave it to the town attorney to craft such a resolution. In light of all the comments that he's received from all of us.
I just have a quick clarification. If we're
What?
going to adopt a resolution that hasn't been written yet, or do we adopt the concept or adopt the
Hold on, Judy, why don't you wait for a second are you making a second for discussion purposes or not? No. I lost her again. She muted
okay,
up.
all right, second for discussion.
Okay, so now that there's a second made for discussion purposes. Now, what is your discussion, Judy?
What my discussion was, are we voting on a specific resolution that has not been created yet? And if so, then should we perhaps say that we're voting on that we agree that there should be a resolution put forth that we could then adopt?
I'm fine with that language.
Wait a minute, let Mitch speak, please.
That's right. I'm fine with that language that Judy has proposed, that we have Vin put something together and bring it back to us. If Vin is okay with that, from a procedural standpoint.
I was going to call a point of order. I thought that took precedence. Even in Zoom, we have to follow Robert's rules, right? So my thought being, you have a motion, you have a second. Maybe the appropriate process would be to move to table with a second on the motion to table, which is not a debatable motion. And then it would be in my office to draft a draft resolution for presentation at your next meeting. Because I do think it's bad form to be approving a resolution that you have not been able to read. And I'll get something to you well in advance of your next meeting. And isn't it better to take a meeting or two to get it done right than to just get it done?
Then can I first select, can I restate the motion that we approve allowing town council to draft a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis to be presented back to our December meeting? I'm hoping Judy will agree that that was more the intent. How's that? I got a thumbs up.
Good job, Mitch. Good job. Second.
So, yes, John, you had your hand up.
Unmuted. Again, I'm not in support of a written resolution, and I respectfully disagree with my colleagues. And I obviously respect your opinion, but I respectfully disagree. I don't think any of you presented any relevant, not relevant, but statistics on whether this is going to affect the residents of this town as a whole. So I'm just I just wanted that to be known that I don't support a written resolution at this time.
Okay. Very good. With that said, whoever's getting text messages, shut your sound off. You're dinging. I'm hearing it
Yeah,
here.
I'm sorry. I'm taking notes on my computer.
Oh, maybe it was you then. Okay. I could hear the dinging. I'm looking around in here like, where's it coming from? Okay, then you have a motion and a second to empower the town attorney, I'm going to say, to create a resolution of some type. I'm not quite sure what the title of the resolution will be at this point, so I'm not going to say strictly racism is a health crisis because much has been discussed here tonight, and I could list it as that for the act of the motion, but I'm not sure if that's how it's going to evolve, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, point of order, there was a motion, Your Honor, that just said create a resolution. It didn't specifically say what the resolution was. So again,
Okay.
Mitch needs to rephrase his resolution, but I mean, think about what we're trying to say here. Right now, you're just directing the town council to do a resolution. A resolution of what?
Well,
How do you want to entitle it?
I thought I did, with all due respect, John, I thought I did say to have the town council draft a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis. What goes into that resolution, Vin would look at other examples. This is not the motion, but just to substantiate this, Vin would look into other examples of what's been done, take into consideration the discussion here this evening, and come up with a resolution that has that as its title, I would think, for us to vote on at the next meeting.
Okay, so we heard what Mitch had proposed and what Judy's second was on. Okay, very good. Is there any other discussion on that? I still personally lean towards the Woodbridge direction, I'll be quite honest with you. But with that said, is there any other discussion? Hearing none.
Point of order, Mr. First Selectman, I would just simply remind the selectmen that all you would be doing is asking me to put something in writing. You're not voting in favor of the ultimate resolution or against the ultimate resolution. So this would be coming back to your table for final vote next month.
Right.
Correct. Yes, Judy.
Thank you. Is there a possibility that we can get a little more information from Woodbridge to see what Woodbridge is perhaps starting?
I have no idea. I can see if what there is or what Beth has done. I don't have that answer for you this minute.
All right.
All set? Okay, I'm going to call Mitch, you're at the top of the screen, so Mitch Goldblatt.
Aye.
Margaret Novicki.
Goldblatt, aye.
Yep, got Mitch Goldblatt. Margaret.
Margaret Novicki, aye.
Okay, John Carangelo, you're next.
No at this time.
Okay. James Zioli is above you. He also feels that I've stated my reason why. Judy Williams. Unmute, Judy, unmute. Unmute.
Easy. Hello.
There you go.
Yes, I would like to see a resolution to look at.
Okay. Ralph Oakenquist.
Your garage? Not.
I have to agree with John.
Keep it Tyson sanitizer.
All right, that's a tie vote, I think, 3-3.
That's like all the way back to 20.
So it fails on a tie. Is there any other proposal on the table? Another motion is what I'm asking, Judy. You're looking like deer in the headlights there. John Carangelo.
I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen entertain an oral statement that racism is a public health care crisis and that we would like to entertain forming a task force working with the local towns to do what's in the best interests of the residents of this town.
Okay, John has made a new motion. Ralph Okenquist.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ralph made the second on that. Is there any discussion on that motion?
You love your pet, but hate wearing their hair.
Hearing, Judy? Why do
Sorry.
you always wait till the last second?
I don't know. I think, not that I'm shying away from the other idea, but I do like the idea of a task force. I do like an idea of people out there doing things and whatnot. When Ben said, yes, you can make resolutions and check them off, that we have a resolution and who's following that. So I like the more of the, let's get it together, let's get a committee and let's see what we can do with it. So if this is the better way for us to be more active, I would definitely encourage us to look into that.
Okay. Any other discussion on this motion? Mitch?
Yeah, I would just like to say my disappointment in the first motion not carrying, but I appreciate John's statement and his motion. I will vote in favor of this motion after the first one did fail, but I will vote in favor of this because I think we do have to move forward. And I appreciate John taking that step in recognizing racism as a public health crisis and us then forming a task force, which I think puts us in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll take a vote. Okay, I'm going to start again. Mitch, you're on top.
Mitch Goldblatt, aye.
Margaret Novicki.
Margaret Novicki, aye.
John Carangelo.
Aye.
Aye. Judy Williams, unmute or wave your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Ralph Okenquist. He raises his hand, he says aye, and I'll agree with that. So it will be a public statement on that, and we will put together a task force on that. And I think that is a excellent, if they could only work across the aisle like this in Washington, we'd get a lot more done. I think that's a good start. I do, and it's only a start, but I think it's a good start. Thank you for that. That's been a long process. Okay. I gotta look and see where we are here. Item number 4, to consider an act on request to approve the tax refunds totaling $9,886.74. And there was an enclosure provided for us. If there's no discussion, is there a motion to approve? Looks like Toyota Leasing makes out the best out of everybody here. Motion made. All in favor?
Oh, here we go. Aye.
Judy, yes. Ralph,
Aye.
yes. John Carangelo, yes. Margaret, yes. Mitch Goldblatt, yes. Thank you. Okay, a couple appointments there. We now need to go into an executive session, discuss a potential land acquisition, and I think at this time, Vin, I should announce what that potential land acquisition is that we're going into executive session on. Is that correct? Yes, okay. The town of Orange, myself, the town attorney, have been in discussion with principals of Racebrook Country Club, and Racebrook has expressed interest in selling the property. The town of Orange is not buying the Racebrook Country Club golf and banquet business. We are buying the building, considering buying the buildings, soil, and improvements thereon of approximately 287 acres, as I recall, and multiple structures for the sum of $8.5 million. Appraisals have been done on this. Discussions have been had on this. And in the long term, it is a business investment that we are discussing for the town of Orange. Racetrack Country Club would be leasing back the property from the town of Orange, and the Board of Selectmen will be discussing some of the terms of that now. This would then, in discussing this with Vin yesterday in office here, since we can't gather, normally when we have a land issue, we gather at High Plains and the room fills, and I think most every time, correct me if I'm wrong, people have voted thumbs up. So we will probably be developing an informational, promotional video, and we will go to the local press to get the word on this as best we can, and there will be video for people to click on and watch. It will be linked in some manner to the OGAT system or the Town of Orange website system. Chris and IT will have to work on that. And in the long run, I guess it will be a benefit for all of us. So that is what we are going into executive session on, the Board of Selectmen and Town Council Attorney Vincent Marino. So is there a motion to go into executive session at, at 8:50?
So moved.
Okay, second on that. Somebody waving their hand. There we go. Margaret Novicki, thank you. We will be entering
Today we're going to do an arts and crafts class. It's called Zen Doodle. It's a lot of fun. I think most people doodled while they talk on the phone or doodle while they're talking to somebody. So this is a way to make very artistic doodles. The first one we're going to do, your supplies. The reason we picked this project is the only thing you're going to need from home is a piece of paper, which a lot of people have copy paper, and a writing utensil, which can be a pen, a pencil, magic markers, different colors, or colored pencils, or the kids' crayons. So the first doodle we're going to make is going to be very easy. Now, don't worry about making mistakes, because art is your own interpretation. So the first one we're going to do is make a line like that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you'll be amazed at what you can do. So we're going to make 2 swirls. Now on our first section, we're going to make some lines like this. And here again, it doesn't have to be, if you want to make 4 lines, if you want to make 5 lines, if you want to make 6 but your first section is going to be some little swirly lines. Now what we're going to do is make lines coming down like this. And our next row, we're going to alternate between the lines just to give it some depth. And so on and so forth, all the way down until you complete this. Now in our next section, we're going to make some double lines. So we have a lot of doodles to do, so I don't want to take the time to complete each corner of this, but I'm just giving you an idea of what you can continue to do at home, so we can show you some other projects. So now for this one, we're going to make some double lines, like so. And on here, we're going to make triangles. Up and down, up and down. In the next row, we're going to put the triangles in a different direction. Here again, it doesn't matter. I have 3 up there. I have 4 down here. It doesn't matter. It's your own interpretation. So here we go again. You'll be amazed when this all comes together, because the different lines give it a lot of depth. So here in each triangle, we're going to make a baby triangle and fill that in. So imagine how nice that would look if you were using different colored magic markers or crayons, whatever you have. Here again. I won't finish that. You can finish that, so we'll have time to do another doodle. So now on this one, we're going to make some circles and little swirlies inside the circle. You can make big circles, small circles, medium circles, whatever you want. And then we're going to color those in and complete this by making a lot of little tiny circles here and there, here and there. This particular one doesn't have a name, but it was designed by someone we know. The next one is going to be a lot of squares. like so. Now, I'm gonna make lines like this, then we're gonna alternate. So, when you finish it, it'll look very much like this. And you'll be amazed at the depth. Now, let's see, let's go on to our next one. Here again, this isn't finished, but you can finish it at home. We want to show you another project. This particular one is called Knightsbridge. And I think it would look very nice with different, if you color your squares in different colors. So here we go, like so, like so. And our lines coming down. And we're going to start coloring in every other one. Leaving the alternating ones blank. How is that, Ray? Good? Maybe. Okay. Now let's see. We're going to go on to another one. Just so you have a few options that you can do while you're staying safe and staying home. I think we'll do this one next. This is a cosmic flower. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to make a giant swirl like that, like so. I'm going to make another one to match it. Now, we're going to start putting our spikes right through here, here. Then we're going to make some shorter spikes coming out. And on each spike, you can make little flowers, little circles, color it in. Let's see, make one that says every other one is colored in. Now, if I wasn't making it this big so you could see it, I would probably add a lot of different colors. And you know, this is a very good project with your kids, your grandchildren, or anybody, because I found that last night I practiced, and I did it for quite a long time because it was interesting and it was fun. And every time you make one, you want to make another one and make it different, make it your own interpretation. So for instance, this could be many different colors, or you could make diamond shapes on here instead of the circles. You could make triangles. whatever you want, because art is your own interpretation, and you'll just find that it's very good to pass the time. And who knows, you could make a very beautiful art piece. I'm going to go into another one now, just so that you have an idea. I think this is one of my favorites. I'm going to make it, it's going to simulate a stem, and on top we're going to make, looks like a little Christmas bulb. Very simple. Now, we're going to make this shape that looks like a little curlicue, and one on the other side, the same size. Now we're going to go out here, and so on and so forth, all the way down. See how it's starting to look so pretty? If you have markers, this could be purple or pink or whatever you want. Okay, now for your last little swirl, just make a little V line like that, and that sort of simulates your flower. Now we're going to go on to a leaf. Make our stem. We're going to make this sort of figure, and then make your lines coming down, and then draw your line in the middle, like so. And you could fill a whole paper with this by just going up and down and all around. Let's make a few more, maybe smaller ones that look like little bulbs coming out, little blossoms. We'll make this one a little smaller. Here again, your little line at the bottom to complete it. And how about another, let's make another leaf. Actually, you could make this smaller and just start by making your stem go like that, and it would be lovely. Would look like ivy. So, okay.
Any more paper? Oh, yeah.
How about doing this gingham pattern? Let's try this one. I'm just showing you what it looks like before we put it on the paper, and giving you the option of the different colors so you have an idea. So this is really nothing more than a checkerboard, and it's your own interpretation about what you want to put in your squares. Your squares can be solid, they can be striped. Okay, I think what we'll do is make some lines coming down on some. Make some, how about this? Make some sideways. We'll make some this way. Who knew doodling could be so much fun? And then if you want to add depth, just go every other. Alternate your designs. Of course, these can be much closer together. It's whatever suits you, whatever you want to turn it into. And especially if you're working with the grandchildren or someone else, they'll have different interpretations and ideas also. So that's called gingham. And imagine if that every square was done in a different color of your crayon or marker or pencil, whatever you like. And it's a lot of fun, I think. Let's see. I think we'll try one more, and this is another very, very pretty one. Here again, different colors, or one color if you want. I think I would do this with a lot of purples and pinks. So we're going to start with our swirl like this, whatever you like, and then we're going to make some different swirls on top of that. Like so. Now we're going to make some little circles and have them get bigger like this. And on each circle, we're going to have some lines coming out. Let's make a few more of these. I think it'd look a lot better in color, but that's what we have. Okay, so then we're gonna do this one. We're gonna complete this and it's gonna be called Dentry.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. Now, here we go. Now that you've practiced and you're really into Zen doodling, this is our next project. It's called Dentry. So we're gonna start by making little circles like this. Okay, I'm just going to show you the stroke that you're going to be making to complete this. It's just like that. It's sort of a very long S. So now the first thing we're going to do is start at the top on the right side.
And Jim, if you would indulge me, I will state a motion that someone can adopt so that we can have a record of the executive orders that we are operating under.
Okay.
Because it's a war and peace exercise.
Yeah. Ann, are we up?
We're back on.
Oh, Chris said, somebody said, was that Chris?
Yep, we're back.
Okay. We're back up. Okay, so we are out of executive session at 9:18. We've had some lengthy discussions tonight, a lot of good dialogue, which with Zoom is always a challenge. Is there a motion to be made at this time? Ralph? Unmute, Ralph. Unmute, Ralph. There you go.
Move to adjourn.
No. No, not yet. We have to make a motion to
What he
proceed.
meant, Mr. First Selectman, what he meant was it would be a motion in accordance with Executive Order Number 7S, Section 7, as modified by Executive Order Number 7CC, Section 1, and as renewed and extended by Executive Order Number 9A, Section 1, and in accordance with Executive Order Number 9H, Section 1, as further extended by Executive Order Number 9L, Section 1, and I'll send it to you in writing. The Board of Selectmen move to recommend entering into a purchase and sale agreement with Gracebrook Properties for the acquisition of approximately 280 acres, plus or minus, for the purchase price of $8.5 million. And in lieu of a town meeting, adjourn directly to referendum.
Wow, Ralph, you did great.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Ralph and second by, I saw Judy's hand up over there. Holy jeez. Okay, we lost Mitch. He's not on here if you look at your screens. Mitch? Okay, Judy Williams, raise your hand or thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay,
Oh,
Judy's
yes.
in favor. John Carangelo, thumbs up. He's back. There's Mitch back.
I'm sorry, I lost connection.
Yeah, we were worried about Carangelo and it was you this time. Okay, we made the motion. Ralph made the motion and it's been seconded with a whole bunch of 9Fs and 7Ls and all due to the pandemic. Ralph did a great job with the motion. And so give me a thumbs up or thumbs down to proceed with this. Mitch.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a thumbs.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll give you a thumbs up.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, Margaret Novicki is thumbs up. And Ralph made the motion, so he's thumbs up. And I'm obviously thumbs up on this. Okay, so it's unanimous, and we will proceed on that. Thank you. That's a long process. Okay. Next is committees. Pension Board. Mitch.
Yes, we did meet recently, and I had papers in front of me before. And we met with the people from Mutual of America to discuss the defined contribution plans and how they're doing. And we find that our participants, our employees who are involved in that, are somewhat more conservative than most in their investments. So there'll be some more of an educational session for our employees about how that process works. It was very interesting. But overall, people are investing into that. They have some options with that, and that's a good thing. Our overall pension is just south of $26 million right now, at least on the last performance as of September 30th. And the quarter, we were up 5.6%. Year to date, we're up 2.2%. And of course, you see the volatility of the markets recently. So it'll be interesting to see how we end up the year. But we feel we're doing well in comparison with our peers and benchmark, and all is well.
Excellent. Emergency management, Margaret Novicki.
We held our last meeting on Friday, November 13th of the Emergency Management Subcommittee on COVID. The situation is not good. The subcommittee is very concerned about the rising number of cases of COVID in Orange since the end of October. And for the very first time, Orange is in the red zone of more than, prorated, more than 15 cases per 100,000. And cases are rising in all age groups. There were 28 cases in the first 13 days of November. So obviously we took note of this. Please excuse my dog who's being really annoying. He doesn't like it either. We've taken note of this, what we consider to be a disturbing trend. And we really feel that we need to ramp up our response. You wouldn't believe it, but it's a little Scotty dog. He sounds very ferocious, but he's really not. Okay, so, this trend of the number of cases going up is also across the state of Connecticut. And so you may have noticed that the governor rolled back the openings of phase 3 to phase 2.1, which is limiting size number, et cetera. So we were talking about needing a plan to ramp up efforts to engage our community with an emphasis on the need for responsible behavior. We think this is really important at this given time because the holidays are ahead. We're very worried about what's going to happen during the holidays with obviously gatherings and people wanting to socialize. And our medical director says close interaction should be avoided at all costs. You may have seen an Everbridge alert the state of Connecticut emergency alerting system, which went out yesterday. I received it on my home phone and as a text message. I hope everybody else got it as well. And it warned about the alarming rate of infection in Orange. Dr. Mohammed also posted a message on the Orange Police Facebook page, basically saying the same thing. But we still feel that we need to use as many channels as possible to get this message out to our townspeople, because, you know, people are just getting lax. I mean, they're fed up with it and holidays are coming, but it's a really, really dangerous time. We would like to be able to put more information on the town's website in a very prominent place. As it is now, you have to sort of click through a number of things, and then you end up getting to the state website, which is, of course, an important source of information. But I think we need more town-specific information. I think, as I've said before, that the community needs to see our leadership in the lead. So I would really like to recommend Jim to do like a video message that could be posted on the website. We could also put it out on all our social media platforms and that sort of thing. I mean, there are other options as well. I think that, you know, our health department is way overstretched. They're doing very well, but with very limited resources. They're really understaffed, and they really need our help right now. And we also need to ensure that the Board of Health gets up to its full complement with all the seats filled as soon as possible. So that is my report. Thank you.
Okay. I was going to say something there, and now I just forgot. Oh, with the Everbridge. Last night, all of a sudden, my phone started lighting up. I don't quite know what happened, but some people got the old message.
Yeah.
Some people got the new message. Some people got the new message attached to the old message and could scroll through. Others couldn't scroll through. So I had them all scrambling, trying to figure out what happened. Then we were getting some calls here today. It was coming through on people's phones as spam. Came through on my cell as a spam call. So it all of a sudden had a kind of a new life of its own yesterday when they did that. And I knew it was going out. So when people started saying, why did you send this message out? I'm looking at it going, that's not what I approved. And so I got a little, then I remember, wait a minute, that's the message from March. So something got balled up in it, and it wasn't crystal clear with every transmission to every group for some reason. But nonetheless, it was helpful and it got people's attention. Very interesting. We made Governor Lamont's discussion on PLR the other morning because Orange made the news with our growth with Amity, really, because some parents had allowed for a large party, a couple different parties within the Orange Woodbridge area, and there were some children there that had virus, whether knowingly or not. And then we ended up with a bunch of children exposed, and that is what caused the sudden closing of the high school, shifting them to full remote learning. And Governor Lamont mentioned this on his discussion the other morning, and that they would be searching out the parents that allowed these parties, and they would be fining them for doing this. I thought that was quite interesting, and it was disappointing for some of the parents to think like this. And you know, it's just but it's all over the place. You're seeing it all over with these groups, with these. Since the schools aren't playing football, they were starting up these own spin-off leagues and stuff, and that ended up being a problem. Then the hockey ended up being a problem. Then another group. So, you know, it's sometimes you just got to sit the dance out, and it doesn't sit well with everybody in the room. It's unfortunate, but you know, having multiple family members now who have had the COVID, my mother, who's got it for her 90th birthday and survived it. My cousin, Mrs. Lasto at the Mary L. Tracy, who survived it, but is, you know, still has a heck of a cough. Her husband survived it, is now transferred to Milford Hospital for rehab after 33 days of being in St. Raphael's on a ventilator and all. I mean, I've lived it to the point where I know it's real. I have some other very good friends that some of you know are in Griffin Hospital and New Haven also. I don't think there's any of us that don't know somebody who's had it. We've had it here in the town hall in different groups. Now most everybody's back. Mr. Cifarelli will be back next week, and I talked to him today. He's doing okay, but you never know where or when. It's just a matter of when is your turn, I guess, is the way we're talking about it. You know, it's scary, but thank you, Margaret. Capital planning, Ralph.
Motion to adjourn.
Unmute.
So I don't know if he hasn't.
Capital planning.
Comes out when he's done, you know.
Yep.
So I don't like to go in there when he's on the call because it's a Zoom.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
So I don't
Inputs are due next week, and we haven't received any so far, so Ann was sending out another notice to make sure that people get them in before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's
Okay, good.
all so late.
Bond construction oversight. I don't think there's anything, is there?
No report. We haven't met for a while. We're pretty much just wrapping things up as usual.
Yeah, we're flat now on that. And personnel, we were scheduled to meet, and then it didn't happen due to COVID. So I had it set just so Ralph and Margaret know we were going to meet downstairs where we could be far enough apart that wouldn't be able to still wear your mask, but we'd be far enough apart. But unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond any of the three of our control, that didn't happen. But we do have several things that have to get done. According to my paperwork, that's all I have. Amazon is up and running up there at the old Lowe's. I saw today that there's a new cigar shop opening. I think very soon on the Post Road at behind where the ramen bowl place is was Lisiano's in the back of that building. They're opening there. The VA has gotten much busier. I was not invited to their ribbon cutting there. That was just kept to the federal dignitaries on that one. We have some other business going on. There's a ribbon cutting coming for Bigelow, which is great. They took over that building at the end of Executive Boulevard. So we have a lot going on. Things are still moving along in Orange.
You're all wound up with
it's good for us.
Calls, you know, and
so,
it's hard to relax.
With all that said, I have nothing else. If nobody has any questions for it, is there a motion to adjourn? Vin?
I just want to let you know I'll be in quarantine at least till Sunday, so I won't be in town hall tomorrow.
Yes, you told me you had an exposure. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to be had here to adjourn?
And just
Ralph, you adjourning us? Okay. Motion made. All in favor? Wave your hand.
Good. Yes.
Okay. And that ends our November meeting. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and we'll see you again in December.
Yeah, thank you.
8, shoulders forward, back,